Mere Conservatism.
Cleve Walker here and David Perry over there. Hey!
What's up? We've had some, let's say, less than ideal circumstances when it comes to our government. Not a big fan of that kind of thing that's going on right now with Warnock and Walker having to go to a runoff. Don't like that. I don't like, obviously, the Democrats taking control of the Senate.
It's already a done deal, of course, but we really do need this seat. And we need this seat for Georgia's sake. Mm-hmm. I just want Georgia, once again, to be showing, we are back. Well, we're back in the right direction. David, something happened that you and I knew would happen. You've talked about it before. President Trump is running for re-election.
Yeah, he has announced, which I think everybody expected him to do. When we found out that there was going to be a big announcement, I think everybody knew that's what it was. I kind of wish that he hadn't even told anybody he was going to make an announcement, because I really think that not everybody thinks this, but I think that Trump was a drag on the ticket for in the midterms in certain races.
I think so. I think you're right. However, I wish he also had waited until after Herschel Walker had been decided. I don't want to suck the oxygen from that. That's still kind of important. But maybe he feels like it'll help out.
Well, keep in mind, the reason we have 2 Democratic senators in Georgia right now anyway is because Donald Trump, after the 2020 election, went out and basically said that the voting system was corrupt.
You're saying he discouraged people from trying.
He discouraged people from voting in the 2020 runoff, and we got 2 Democratic senators out of it. I do think that that's his fault.
Well, I don't necessarily think that. I don't think that influenced it enough either way. It was a close race. I feel that Trump was wrong to do anything that might have discouraged a more positive outcome. I felt Trump was almost saying, hey, I don't mind if Kemp loses. And so that's the thing that
he would say stuff like that, which would drive me crazy.
You and me both.
And I mean, absolutely nuts for him to say something like that. And it makes me think, when he says things like that, Cleve, it makes me think all he cares about is himself.
He takes it personal.
And that's not somebody that I want to support and vote for if they're going to be like that. Now, Trump in his speech, which I think we're going to hear from him just a little bit, was a little more humble and a little more us focused, which was really good to hear. I like it when he's talking about things as far as from the perspective of us, and we're in this together. But when he makes it all about him, I don't like it.
Well, the tone of the speech was perfect. It was pitch perfect. And this is just a short little thing to give the attitude I wish he had all the time.
I will ensure that Joe Biden does not receive 4 more years in 2020. Our country could not take that. And I say that not in laughter. I say that in tears. Our country could not take 4 more years. It can only take so much.
And he's right. Okay.
Yeah, he's absolutely right.
My point is, and that's the tone we need. Biden, the Democrats, they're the enemy. They're the ones destroying America, not other Republicans, not other personalities. And his entire tone through his address in announcing that he's running again was that. He says, we have to win this for the sake of the nation.
Well, if Trump can get his tone right and be disciplined with that, he can do pretty well.
Yeah.
I don't trust him to do that, frankly. And this was true when he was running for president. It was true for 4 years when he was president.
That's a good point.
That you never know the next day what he's going to come out and do, because he that worked for him in his favor at times, but his volatility was an issue.
Right.
And it's an issue when he's running a campaign, especially one that is apparently he hopes is going to last 2 years. He's announced very, very early, Cleve.
He did.
And a lot can happen.
He did.
If he gets the nomination from the Republicans, then he's going to have a 2-year presidential campaign, and that is a lot of opportunity to make mistakes.
And they're going to try to urge him to do that. I mean, they're going to help him along in that regard. The thing about it is, I'm more concerned if he were to do this and get primaried and does not win. Does he throw his support behind another GOP candidate? That's the thing I'm thinking about, because if he doesn't, if he were not to get the nomination,
he could tank the Republican.
Yes, and that's scary.
That is scary, and that's one reason I was hoping that he wouldn't run, is because we know him. Okay, now what would be great is if he would run, and if he lost, that he would graciously offer his support to whoever the Republican nominee is. But we know Donald Trump. That's not the type of thing he would do.
It could happen.
I mean, it could happen, but
happen.
I don't expect it to happen. And so it does make me nervous too. But look, there's no telling what's going to happen and how it's going to shake out. We just need to wait and see. He made the best choice for him and for what he thinks is the right thing to do, to go ahead and announce. What do you think about him announcing so early? Do you think that was a good strategic
No, like I said, I
not?
actually would like for him to have waited until at least after the Senate decision in Georgia. I want to focus things on things that are happening now, and making this decision, kind of take some of the oxygen out of the room. Now, having said that, as a presidential candidate, maybe he'll draw more attention and support for Herschel Walker. Governor Kemp is coming out big time for Herschel Walker. They're doing a rally this weekend on his behalf, and that's very important.
Well, I think announcing early, in my opinion, not everybody sees it this way, but in my opinion, actually shows that Trump is operating from a position of weakness that he's not used to operating from. And I don't mean weakness as in he is the weakest person running, or he's the only person running right now. But he's not the big dog right now.
Oh, okay. I got you.
I think it's clear that he's not the big dog right now, and that he knows that because he announced so early. I think that what he is doing by announcing early is he's trying to dissuade others from joining the race. So he thinks that the earlier he announces, the less likely that he's going to face lots and lots of competition in the Republican primary, because in about 6 months, we're going to know pretty much everybody who's running.
It's funny that you use that terminology, the big dog, because I think Trump is doing something that dogs do when they're seeing competition in their territory. Trump's marking his territory.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's one way to say it.
And,
well, because think about this, Cleve. Probably one thing that he could do if he was the big dog and he knew he was going to win the nomination and he was operating from the position of advantage, he would actually wait until other people. He would not be the first one in. He would be one of the last ones in.
I agree.
Because he knew that he could beat everybody. I think that he's doing this now so that the pool of talent is smaller that he's got to go up against.
I agree.
And there's an off chance, he thinks, possibly, that he can convince Ron DeSantis not to run. He's the big one. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of people that probably won't run if Donald Trump is running, like Mike Pence.
Well, now let's
some of those people that if Donald Trump wasn't going to run might be in the race.
I think that Pence is going to run, and I think that Trump being in the race is actually an encouragement in his mind for him to run even more. Here's what he had to say, by the way, when he was asked about Donald Trump running and whether or not he should be the nominee.
I honestly believe that we'll have better choices come 2024. I don't think anybody could have...
Better choices than Donald Trump?
I do. I don't think anyone could have beaten Hillary Clinton other than Donald Trump in 2016. I write that in my new book. Mm-hmm. I learned that on the campaign trail with him in 2016. And the record that we created, that I know he reflected on last night, where we rebuilt our military, revived our economy, secured our border, appointed conservatives to our courts at every level, is something that I'll always be proud of. But as I've traveled around the country over the last 2 years, people have repeatedly come up to me and said, we want to get back to the policies of the Trump-Pence administration. But I think there's a genuine desire for leadership that could unite the country around our highest ideals, and leadership that would reflect, I think, more of the civility and respect that Americans show each other every day.
So
I think he's right. I actually, not a lot of people want to hear that, especially Trump sycophants.
Right.
They definitely don't want to hear that. And even people,
they hate him, by the way.
They hate Mike Pence.
Yes.
Yeah, that he's establishment, all that stuff. Never mind that he was the vice president for Donald Trump for 4 years and did an amazing job.
Just the man he needed.
They hate him. Yeah, exactly the right guy for the job. I think he's actually right about that, because what you see in polling is that Donald Trump personally is unpopular. Donald Trump policies are very popular.
Right.
That has always been true. And look, I think that you can accept that reality without slamming Donald Trump unnecessarily. And I'm not somebody that's going to do that. I don't think Pence is going to do that either. But
no, not at all.
I think you're whistling past the graveyard if you ignore the fact that there are lots and lots and lots of people who are just turned off by Trump personally.
Now, and I want to say something here. I really appreciate Pence saying what he said. He said it took Donald Trump to beat Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. In other words, he's saying nobody else could have beat her. And I think in saying
that's a bold statement.
Yeah, and I think in saying that he's saying, but that was then. In other words, we needed a Trump. Mm-hmm. Even the way he is now, we needed a Trump at that point. And Trump did what he had to do. And I actually agree with Pence on that. I think I even said that to you. I think I said...
You say that all the time, yeah.
Well, the point is, I said, in that instance, with that slate of candidates, he was the only one who was totally fearless of her and the media, and exactly what we needed at that time. So I appreciate Pence saying that. He said nobody could have beat her but him. But now it's a different time. Okay, at this juncture, it's going to take somebody else. Thank you, President Trump, for what you did. We hope you also will support us now. But now it's time for somebody else to step up to the plate who has some things that perhaps you cannot bring to the table.
There's no doubt about it. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be a very interesting race in the Republican Party to see what happens, because really you've got these people that in many cases were close to Trump. Mm-hmm. That are going to be running against him, and like Pence,
and that Trump had endorsed,
frankly, like Ron DeSantis,
right?
Like Tim Scott,
right?
Like Nikki Haley might run, not Liz Cheney. She's going to run, but these are the types of people that, in many cases, were close to Trump and were supporters of Trump, but now are going to be running against him. It's going to be fascinating to see the tact they take to race against him.
That's Trump's problem, because when DeSantis or somebody like that, somebody that Trump actually supported, by the way, for governor and campaigned for, he takes it personal. He takes it like a personal betrayal if you are not going to go all the way with him.
Well, and that's why it's going to be interesting, the tone that they take, like Mike Pence did. Mike Pence, if anybody's going to be able to do it, it'll be him, to be able to, in a measured way, respect Donald Trump, but at the same time say, vote for me instead.
He's never attacked Trump.
He
never has.
He's going to be, if anybody's going to be able to do it, he'll be able to do it. And it's going to be fascinating to see.
My problem is, again, and this is what Trump has told us, even though I don't want Trump to be the nominee at this point, I'll be quite honest with you, I haven't had a change of heart about that. But we still need something of what Trump brings to the table. And to me right now, the only other person who does that adequately is Ron DeSantis. Mm-hmm. I still think Pence, I love him. He's a fine Christian man. He did a lot for this country. He really helped Trump out, both in the his candidacy and as vice president. But we got to have some fire still. And that's why I don't want Youngkin to run. Now, Youngkin of Virginia, he's going to run. But to me, he's still too mellow. I want somebody who has the Trump fire without the loose lips, okay, that you were talking about. And to me, the only person that is DeSantis. That seems to be the case. Mm-hmm. And he's a clear number two. Mm-hmm. Look, 2 years until the election. Oh, yeah. And we got time.
And at least a year until the nomination. There's a lot of things that are going to shake out and a lot of things that are going to happen. Don't forget, at one point, Kamala Harris was heading the Democratic Party for their nomination, and she ended up dropping out before the first primary.
Right.
So
I remember that.
So a lot of stuff can happen, and we'll see where it ends up. But it is going to be very interesting. And Trump, he has his work cut out for him. I think that this is going to be a much more difficult primary for him than the 2016 primary.
I think you're
for
right.
a lot of reasons. And
although that primary was also brutal in its own way, had several candidates.
It was, but it wasn't really brutal for him. It was brutal for everybody that he went up against. And if you think about it, Donald Trump never, until the end, he never really had the majority support from primary voters.
Right.
There was tons of candidates. He had about 30%, 35%, somewhere in that neighborhood, and he just had more. He had a plurality, but not a majority, because the votes were going so many different ways until the end when he started really picking up steam. So he has a built-in base of support that are going to support him no matter what, and are going to hate there are people that hate Ron DeSantis for some reason because they don't, in my opinion, they don't use their brain. When they hate on Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is an amazing Republican politician and exactly the kind of person we need in our party doing the right things. But they're going to slam him as being establishment or whatever.
Right.
Because it's Trump or nobody for them.
And that's the problem. You and I supported Trump's candidacy and supported him all the way once he became the GOP nominee. And he did a lot of wonderful things, but I never supported his personality, okay? I never supported the way he sometimes would say. I don't like to hear him doing the personal nicknames and insults, okay? I never cared for that. But that's the problem. Many people are supporting his personality. It's become a cult of personality for a lot of folks, and that's too bad. It shouldn't be that way.
Because for me and you, it was always more about the ideals that we had, that the Republican Party represented, and hopefully that their candidates pushed for. Now, look, we have been very disappointed by pretty much every politician ever. Even Donald Trump in some cases was disappointing, but he was less disappointing than most Republicans that get elected are.
Right.
And something that Republicans have done here recently is very disappointing. I think we're going to talk about in just a second.
We are, but before we talk about how disappointing they are, and even though we never saw red wave, still so happy that the Republicans won the House.
Apparently that is the case.
I'm so happy about that for a number of reasons. Some of the smaller reasons is bye-bye Nancy Pelosi. Okay, I'm just tired of hearing her and seeing her, and she may actually leave shortly. I'm hoping that'll be the case. But Representative Jim Banks from Indiana, by the way, he's urging his Republican colleagues to do everything they can to stop Democrats from passing amnesty for illegal immigrants. Okay. Because Chuck Schumer said, and I'm quoting him, Chuck said, "Now more than ever, we're short of workers. We have a population that's not reproducing on its own with the same level that it used to. The only way we're going to have a great future in America," Schumer said, "is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but give a path of citizenship for all 11 million, or however many, undocumented immigrants."
However many. So now they're saying it out loud.
Yes, what they've been saying all along, but speak softly. David, how can
So
I'm sorry.
I have so much to say about this.
All right.
So Schumer laments that Americans were not reproducing enough.
I know the first thing you think about. Yeah.
So this is from the guy who represents the party that loves abortion. And we abort millions of babies that could be born, that, by the way, that are created in God's image, that could be in our country right now, making us a better, more prosperous country, but more than that, living their lives.
Right.
And hopefully being used by God in their lives. That was taken from them because of people like Chuck Schumer and the policies he supports. It makes no sense to lament the lack of population growth in our country, which is a problem. It's a problem for a lot of Western countries. But to do that and support abortion and I mean, how about this? How about we have pro-family policies in our country where we promote families.
Who would have thought of that?
And childbirth. So that means not abortion. That means higher wages. That actually means less immigration, because wages would be higher and hopefully people could support families.
Good point. Yeah.
Doing all kinds of things to support family growth. By the way, at the same time, Schumer is making this speech, I think it was yesterday, they're planning and about to vote on a bill to make same-sex so-called marriage.
What's the name of the bill? Because it's so convoluted, but it sounds like
Respect of Marriage Act,
yes,
or something like
yes,
that, which is not what it is.
No.
Look, words have definitions, and the word marriage means something, and it doesn't mean two dudes in a relationship. That's not what a marriage is. Now, that can be two dudes can be in a relationship. We've seen that happen, and I don't think that that's good, but it's not marriage. Marriage is we've said it many times. We can get philosophical about what it's supposed to be, but the state's interest in marriage is the family. It's actually exactly what Chuck Schumer is talking about here. The interest is there's fundamentally an ability to procreate when two people get together. And so marriage is a way for us as a society to institute some responsibilities that come along with the ability to procreate. You know, you're supposed to take care of your children, by the way.
Sure.
Stability. You're supposed to raise them. You're supposed to care for them, instill values in them. Marriage is kind of the bedrock institution, and that's why the state has an interest in it. Two dudes can't procreate. It's not the same thing. The state doesn't have the same type of interest in it. It's fundamentally wrong. And there are a lot of Republicans have signed on to this bill. The Republicans are joining the Democrats to enshrine same-sex so-called marriage. And it's very disappointing to see them doing that.
Well, our side, I don't think, really sees the threat this poses to anybody, any institution, including the church, by the way, who holds to traditional marriage. When you give the force of law to the redefinition of marriage that you're going to try to do with this bill, you're going to start giving leeway to pressure, coerce, and otherwise attack anybody who has a position different from that has business, has a school, has anything in the public square.
And they say that it's not going to do that. They say the bill offers some protection to religious institutions and stuff like that, but what it doesn't do is offer protections to me in my business, in my life,
right,
and you and your business and your life. You're right. It opens the door to forcing this as a new norm that everybody has to embrace. And
it's not a right for them to give. The Constitution gives us these rights. The Constitution is our bulwark of protection. Anything they give you as a right, they can take away. Because they gave it to you, they can take it away. So if we give way to this so-called bill to recognize the importance of marriage, all we're going to do is make it easier for them to come along and attack and harass anybody, any institution, any school, any business that does not subscribe to it. And that's awful. I'm just telling you.
Yes, and Cleve, I hate to tell you this, but it is going to happen. I mean, this bill is going to pass. It's going to be. It's going to happen. It's going to pass. It's going to be the law of the land. And so we need to prepare for what that means and what the new normal is going to be because of it. It's not a good thing, and there are a lot of Republicans that are supporting it, unfortunately. And guess what? You know, when you redefine, people think this is silly to say this, but it's not. And I can show you that it's not. But when you start to redefine this marriage and words like this, the word marriage now has lost all meaning.
Right.
So if two dudes can be married or two ladies can be married, then three dudes can be married.
Of course. What they call polyamory.
Two dudes and a lady can be married.
Yeah.
A dude and 7 ladies can be married. And you laugh at that, and they may even say, you know, that's not what we're talking about. We don't want to do that. Yeah, they say that now.
Sure.
But I'm telling you, when you change this definition, when marriage becomes something that it's not, it can now be anything.
Right. And our only hope in that case is this. Now, in a couple of years, we got another chance to add some people to the Senate. And we have fewer seats to defend than this time around. Mm-hmm. So I actually believe it's possible for us to still recapture the Senate in a couple of years.
Well, and some of these people, by the way, who I think it was 10 Republicans who voted for this thing, some of them need to be primaried.
I agree.
I think we need to look at the list and find out which ones are the most likely to lose a primary, and we should primary them. I want to get them in the safest states. In other words, I want these to be seats that we can recapture.
Right.
I want it to be safe. I don't want to risk losing control of the Senate over it, but I want to pick a few and say, we're coming after you because you voted for this. I think that we should do that.
It's that important, and I agree with you 100%. And we need new blood anyway. So I'm all for getting some new blood in, especially in a couple of years. It's a possibility. Wouldn't that be great to recapture the Senate?
Well, I hope that we do it. We should do it based on the map. Getting the Senate.
If we win Georgia this time around, I do believe we recapture the Senate in a couple of years.
We should be able to. Yeah. You're right. This year, it was always going to be hard to do it just because of the map.
Right.
Because of how many seats we had to defend. Next year, it should be much easier for us.
Right.
And it's going to be a presidential election, so turnout should be high.
Oh yeah.
And I don't see Biden being super popular in 2 years.
I thought
you still don't think he's going to run?
No, he's not going to run. And this time, I think he would like to run. I'm just telling you, call it a gut feeling. He's going to get so bad, and I'm not trying to say he's going to die or anything or become physically so debilitated that he can't stand up. He's going to become so bad the Democrats are going to say, no, we can't do this.
Well, I think had we seen a red wave last week, I think Biden would be done.
I agree.
I think
I agree.
Had we seen a red wave, then the long knives would have come out for Joe Biden. However, since we saw a Democrat, quote unquote, win, meaning they didn't lose quite as bad as they thought, I think he is going to run, and he is going to be on the ballot for president next time. Because
I think that's the plan. Again, I just don't think he'll be able to.
By the way, that might be the silver lining of this midterm election. The fact that the Republicans underperformed so badly that Joe Biden is actually going to run again.
Okay.
That could be the silver lining. I'm just saying.
It's possible. I'll take any silver lining after this.
Yeah.
David Perry and I'm Cleve Walker. David, they can hear this entire broadcast again.
Yeah, check it out on Apple Podcasts. Check it out on Spotify. You can find it on YouTube and Facebook as well. We'd love to have you leave a comment and review and all that good stuff.
And as always, it's not over with yet. Keep the faith. We're not done yet. David Perry, Cleve Walker, and this has been Mere Conservatism. See you next week.